So today I'll be presenting my passion project that I did on Animal Crossing. So this first section will be the introduction. So first I'll explain, wait for this to load, why I picked Animal Crossing. So I chose to focus on Animal Crossing for my q4pp passion project for a few reasons. Animal Crossing is probably one of my favorite video game series ever made. Over the years, it's brought me so much joy and so many happy memories, and I just want to help share it with you. Animal Crossing is also one of the most unique and interesting game series that exists on the market today. So first, I'm just going to do a brief explanation on what Animal Crossing is. So when many people first hear the concept of Animal Crossing, they think, "What? That game doesn't sound like any fun at all. Why would you play it?" In one sentence, Animal Crossing is a game where you live in a town of animals, doing chores all day and working to pay off your mortgage. Sounds boring, huh? I would agree at first, but I assure you Animal Crossing is one of the most relaxing and calming games you will ever play. At its core, Animal Crossing is a life simulation game where you move into a town and befriend villagers, catch bugs and fish, design your house, and pay off your debt. There are not any mandatory tasks. There is no end goal. It's just living in your town, free to do whatever you want. This may sound unimpressive and boring at first, but I assure you Animal Crossing is so much more than that. Animal Crossing is such a unique game, and it is very hard to convey why it is fun. There isn't a grand story or an end goal in Animal Crossing. There is no sprawling environments with tons of detail. It is an escape of pure, untapped relaxation. A stress-free life that you wish you could live. I will try to give you a glimpse of just why that is. What is the gameplay loop of Animal Crossing, and why is it unique? In Animal Crossing, you play as, well, you. The character is intended to be a representation of you. You can give them the same name and make them dress the same as you. At the beginning of the game, after answering a few questions to a special NPC about your name, where you were going, and where you're going, which will become your town name, you thrown into your town. In Animal Crossing, you move into a town. This is where you will be spending the majority of your time in. The town you move into is inhabited entirely by anthropomorphic animals, and you are the only human in the village. When you first move into your town, a tanuki called Tom Nook will have you place down your house or tent, and he gives you a massive debt to pay in bells, which is the currency of Animal Crossing. On the first day in your town, you will do a short tutorial where you will learn about making bells and talk to the villagers in your town. You will explore the town and meet all the shopkeepers and special characters. You will notice that I said first day, and this is one of the features that makes Animal Crossing so unique. Animal Crossing runs in real time. A day in real life is a day in Animal Crossing. In Animal Crossing, you often have to wait in real time for things to happen. Shops only restock once a day, and as the year in real life progresses, so does the game. The seasons and weather change depending on the time of year. This is part 2 of the gameplay loop. Animal Crossing is a game about patience. As mentioned before, you are often forced to wait a day or two for things to happen. It isn't a game you can grind for 10 hours straight, but instead a more slower-paced game that you experience over a long period of time. In Animal Crossing, there are a variety of activities that you can do every day. Using tools that you purchase from the shop, you can catch bugs with a net or fish with a fishing rod. Fossils appear in your town every day that you can dig up and get assessed by the museum. Designing your house is a big part of all of Animal Crossing games. As you acquire new furniture from the shops, you can arrange in your house to make it look nice. You can go to stores and shop every day. The shops carry new items every day. You can also talk to villagers every day and make friends with them. And I'll go over a little bit of the history, because the development history of Animal Crossing is super interesting, and it's pretty unique. So why was Animal Crossing developed? In 1999, Nintendo of Japan was developing an add-on for the Nintendo 64 called the Nintendo 64 Disk Drive. The N64 DD would allow for the N64 to have access to more power, read higher capacity discs, data to be rewritten to the discs, as well as online play. It also included a real-time clock, which the N64 didn't have, and the devs of the 64DD wanted a game that would utilize the real-time clock of the 64 disk drive, and this is where Animal Crossing was built. Or where it was born, sorry. Originally, Animal Crossing was going to be a large online RPG that involved players venturing into caves and fighting monsters and working in real time with other players online. This was not able to happen, though, as the Nintendo 64 disk drive received multiple delays, so the development team working on Animal Crossing The developers, due to the delays of the Nintendo 64 disk drive, they weren't going to be able to release Animal Crossing on time, and they didn't want to cancel the project. So what they ended up doing was they decided that they would retool the project so that it would be able to run on a base N64. And since the N64, the base N64 was a lot less powerful, and they really didn't have access to as much stuff with the Nintendo 64 disk drive, the game had to be heavily retooled so it could run on a base N64. And they did this by pretty much changing everything about the game, except they wanted to keep the constant of a real-time clock. So the game was changed from a big multiplayer RPG where you would fight monsters to a life simulation game where you would talk to villagers and make friends and design your house. But they still did keep the constant of the real-time clock. And you may be wondering, like I said before, the real-time clock was an exclusive feature to the disk drive, so how did it run on the real-time clock on a base N64? So they actually did the developers actually used a pretty clever solution for this. So they put actually a chip that had a real-time clock in the cartridge itself that was powered by a little battery, so that it could run on the real-time clock even though the base N64 didn't have one built in. So how did Animal Crossing really come to be? Animal Crossing was worked on many people, but the three most important developers in the series as a whole was Katsuya Eguchi, Aya Kyugoku, and Kazumi Tataka. So the reason Animal Crossing exists today is really quite depressing. So Animal Crossing took pretty heavy inspiration from the Katsuya Eguchi's own life experiences. He's kind of the main guy behind the gameplay loop of Animal Crossing. So originally what his story is that in 1986 he moved from his hometown to Kyoto, which is where Nintendo of Japan's headquarters is located and where all their gameplay development happens. And when he moved to Kyoto, he moved away from his family and friends, and he didn't really have anyone there. So he was really kind of sad and lonely, and he wanted to design a game that lonely and sad people could play that would make them feel better. And this is kind of where we get Animal Crossing from. And that's why it was pretty interesting. So Kazumi Totaka was the sound designer from Animal Crossing, and the reason he's so important is that Animal Crossing is pretty much a very atmospheric game, and to establishing good atmosphere in a game, one of the kind of key concepts that you need is to have good sound design that fits with the atmosphere. And Animal Crossing itself has always really heavily relied on the audio to keep you immersed. Like all of the sounds of whether it be walking or catching a fish or opening a door, it's very, very realistic and atmospheric and kind of keeps you immersed. And the music in Animal Crossing is also a big part. So the music in Animal Crossing is probably, I would say, probably my favorite music like ever, like out there just in general, because it's really slow paced and it's really relaxing, and hearing the music of Animal Crossing just hits you really hard and it makes you just feel really good about everything. And lastly is Aya Kyugoku. So she didn't actually join Nintendo until 2003, so she didn't work on the original Animal Crossing, but she was really important because she brought a lot of diversity to the series because she is a female, and when she joined Nintendo, the staff was primarily male. So she brought kind of a unique experience where when she was developing games a lot of the time, it was really only with males and it wasn't of people of her own gender. So she kind of felt lonely in that way, and she brought that kind of new creative vision to Animal Crossing. And like I said, all this collaboration led to the creation of the Animal Crossing series. So localization is the first game. This is more of a fun fact, but this is a really interesting thing that I like to tell people when I'm talking about Animal Crossing. So the original Animal Crossing, based on all of its ports and localizations, was actually released a total of 6 different times, which is kind of crazy because most games, they only really have one version, but this had 6. So the first release was on April 11, 2001 for the N64 exclusively in Japan. The direct Japanese translation of the name Animal Crossing is Dobatsu no Mori, which is what it was called in Japan. So Dobatsu no Mori, the version on the N64, was later ported to the GameCube in Japan, because at that time the GameCube was the new console and they wanted to port Animal Crossing to it, and it was released as Dobatsu no Mori Plus, and it had some new features. It ran at like 60 frames per second at a higher resolution, and had better performance. In 2002, this version, Dobatsu no Mori Plus, was then localized and released in the US and given the title of Animal Crossing with some new added features, like holidays that better catered to the American audience, and they added some more shops, like the Able Sisters. And this version, like the Animal Crossing that was released in the US, was retranslated back in Japan, or back into Japanese and released back in Japan as Dobatsu no Mori E Plus, because the developers, they really liked all of the new features that the Animal Crossing port in the US had introduced, so they decided they ported that back to Japan. And that was really interesting. So the last version was released in China in 2006 on a peripheral called the IQ Player. And that was the IQ player was really interesting because video game consoles were actually banned in China up until 2015, and at the time of Animal Crossing's release. So Nintendo really collaborated with the company to release something called the IQ player, which was a little plug-and-play system that would connect to your TV, and you could play games on it. And it wasn't technically considered a video game console because there wasn't a console to go through; it just connected directly through the TV. And yeah. So now I'll talk about all the games and some of the features that they introduced. So Nintendo has released 5 mainline Animal Crossing games up to this day and 2 spin-offs, but I'm not really going to talk about those because those aren't important. But the original Animal Crossing was released on April 11th, 2001 on the N64, and this is kind of the birth of Animal Crossing, was the introduction. It kind of introduced a lot of the mechanics, because something that's kind of annoying about Animal Crossing, I guess, is that the games haven't really changed all that much since the GameCube version, and that's why it was so important, because it kind of introduced all the features to everyone. So, Animal Crossing Wild World was released on November 23rd, 2005 for the Nintendo DS, and the main thing that this game kind of had was online play. So you couldn't really play online on the GameCube. You couldn't really play with your friends and see their towns unless they basically gave you their GameCube memory card, but you couldn't play at the same time. But with Wild World you could, and that was kind of the selling point of that game. So City Folk released on November 16th, 2008 for the Nintendo Wii. And this game, it didn't really add a ton, but basically there were some features that they removed in Wild World. Like, the Wild World didn't have any holidays, and City Folk kind of brought that back, and they updated the graphics a lot, and it was kind of the ultimate Animal Crossing package at the time, but it didn't really add all that much. So Animal Crossing New Leaf was released on November 8th, 2012 for the Nintendo 3DS. And New Leaf actually changed a ton about the series. The kind of selling point of New Leaf was customizability. So in New Leaf, you were kind of the mayor of the town, and you could kind of do more than you could ever do in previous Animal Crossing games. So you could actually build things called public works projects around the town, because usually you can't place furniture outside your town, only in your house in Animal Crossing. But in New Leaf, they added a way so you could kind of place certain furniture pieces outside, and they gave you a lot more control over your town that really wasn't in the previous games. This was the game that also introduced you could breed flowers to get different colors. Like, you could breed like a red and a white flower to get like a pink flower, for example. And then New Horizons is the most recent game, released on March 20th, 2020. And New Horizons kind of further expanded on the customizability, and they kind of gave you ultimate control. So how New Horizons works is, instead of a town, you're dropped on a deserted island, because in the previous Animal Crossing games, you're usually dropped into a town that is pretty well built up and already has some structures. But New Horizons, it was an entirely deserted island that just had a bunch of weeds and trees, and you kind of made the entire town yourself. So you placed all of the shops, all of the houses, you designed everything. You could place furniture outside, you could carve paths, you could change the landscape, like you could terraform the rivers and the cliffs, because in Animal Crossing your towns are usually multiple layered with different cliff size, like multiple layers, sorry. And there was rivers running through your town, but now you could customize that in New Horizons. And yeah, that's the history of the games. So for this section, I'll be talking about the gameplay mechanics of Animal Crossing, because I'll be diving in depth to what I feel are the most important that kind of give Animal Crossing its identity. So the villagers. Villagers are the main mechanics, or one of the main mechanics of Animal Crossing. Villagers are NPCs that you can talk to in the game. You can make friends with them, hang out with them every day. And like I mentioned before, all the villagers in Animal Crossing are anthropomorphic animals of various species. There are 35 in total, like cats, cows, sheep, rhinos, monkeys, dogs, and many more. And there are 8 personality types. So a villager personality type kind of dictates how they act. There are 4 types found in male villagers, and the remaining 4 are actually found in female. So I just put a picture of probably one of my favorite villagers, which is Bob. He's been around since the first game, and he's really cute, fun. I like him. Now the shops. The shops are is one of my personal favorite features in Animal Crossing. So the shops in Animal Crossing, basically special characters will set up shops in your town to sell items, and this can be anything from furniture to clothing or even gardening supplies. And some of the most popular shops throughout the series are Nook's Cranny, which is where you can buy furniture; Able Sisters, where you can buy clothes; the museum, where you can kind of all the fish and bugs that you've catched, which I'll talk about later. They show up, and you can kind of see them. It's like an actual museum. And the post office is where you send letters. So the shops refresh all of their items every day, at least the shops that sell items, and that's why it makes it unique, because it kind of ties the real-time clock. And yeah. So for the next slide, I'll be talking about house design and progression. So another one of the kind of main selling points of Animal Crossing is house design. When you first start out in your town, Tom Nook will give you a small house, and that's expanded when you pay off your debt. So you can decorate your house with various furniture that you acquire from the stores, and you can choose a variety of different wallpaper and flooring to put in your house. And some furniture can be hung on walls like clocks, and in some games you can even place down rugs. And it's really fun to design your house and make it look real nice. That's kind of one of the main features of Animal Crossing. And like standard interior design, like things will kind of apply to Animal Crossing, so you can kind of, it helps you practice interior design skills a little bit. So fish slash bugs slash fossils. Collecting all the fish and bugs and fossils for some people is the main mechanic of Animal Crossing. So at Nook's Cranny, you can purchase a variety of tools like fishing rods, nets, and shovels. Fishing rods can be used to catch fish. Fish are found in the water, wherever water is in your town, like sometimes there's rivers and oceans. Bugs can be caught with a net. Bugs will fly around your town, and you can catch them by walking up to them and pressing A and catch them with your net. And different bugs and fish will come and go each month, and that's part of how it ties into the real-time clock. So fossils can be dug up with a shovel, and 5 fossils will spawn on your island each day. If you want to donate, if you want to donate them to the museum, so they'll show up in your museum, they must be assessed by Blathers first, and he's kind of the guy who runs the museum. So fossils don't rotate out each month. They kind of just, all fossils are always available at all times of year. So gardening slash flowers. In Animal Crossing, you can grow a variety of different types of flowers. When you initially purchase flowers at Nook's Cranny, there will only be 3 colors, usually red, white, and yellow, but depending on the flower that can be different, and they can be crossbred to potentially sprout hybrid flowers that come in different colors like orange, pink, blue, and purple, and even gold for roses. Flowers can be crossbred if 2 flowers are placed next to each other and watered. The next day they'll have a random chance to sprout a new flower. And something really cool about Animal Crossing is to calculate the chance of spawning a hybrid. They actually use real genetics. So there's like a dominant and a recessive trait that each flower possesses. When you combine them, you can set up a Punnett square to predict the probability of what color you get. And that's really cool. So holidays, like mentioned before, Animal Crossing runs on a real-time clock, with days in the game corresponding to days in real life. When certain holidays happen in real life, they are also celebrated in Animal Crossing. Versions of Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Easter and many more are celebrated in Animal Crossing. The holidays themselves consist of a special holiday-themed character to come into your town, and they give you holiday-themed furniture. So this over here is Zipper T Bunny, and she is responsible for Easter. And this is a picture of what's called the Jingle set in Animal Crossing City Folk. So this is like the Christmas-themed furniture that you can get. Yeah, so that was my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.